Man's search for meaning, a story of survival, suffering, and the human spirit. The train clattered through the dark European countryside in the dead of night. Inside the cramped cattle car, Viktor Frankl, a young Austrian psychiatrist, stood among dozens of silent men, women, and children bound for the unknown. They had no idea where the train was going, but they feared the worst. After days without food or water, the doors opened to a name that would haunt history: Auschwitz. Guards shouted, dogs barked, orders in German rang through the air. People were divided left or right. Some disappeared into the barracks, others were never seen again. Frankl, like the rest, had been stripped of everything: his clothes, his identity, his career, even the manuscript of a book he had devoted years to writing. All that remained was his mind, his memories, and a quiet determination to survive. But for what? The first lesson: choice and suffering. Life in the concentration camp was a slow, grinding war against despair. Prisoners were reduced to numbers. They slept in overcrowded huts, starved on thin soup and a crust of bread, and worked in frozen fields with little protection. Death was everywhere. Some collapsed from exhaustion, others were executed at random. Frankl observed that those who survived weren't always the physically strongest, but those who had a reason to live. One man clung to the hope of seeing his wife again. Another imagined himself giving lectures on the psychology of suffering. Frankl himself longed to rewrite his lost manuscript. Through all this, he began to see a deeper truth: suffering is inevitable, but how we respond to it is a choice. Even in the camps, a man could choose to help a fellow prisoner, to share his last piece of bread, or to find beauty in a sunrise. In those moments, the prisoner was no longer a victim, but a free human being, searching for meaning. As days turned into months, Frankl watched how men gave up, not when they were starving or beaten, but when they lost all sense of purpose. They would lie in bed, refuse to work, and simply wait for death. One freezing morning, Frankl trudged through the snow, shovel in hand, forced to dig trenches. Every muscle ached. His feet were wrapped in scraps of cloth, soaked and numb. But instead of focusing on his misery, he imagined himself speaking to students in a warm lecture hall, teaching them what suffering had taught him. That vision kept him alive. He realized then, man's deepest desire is not pleasure or power but meaning. In the face of unavoidable suffering, finding meaning becomes our salvation. Love as salvation. One of Frankl's most moving reflections came from a moment in the camp when he thought of his wife. He didn't know whether she was alive or dead, but in that moment, her image rose in his mind so vividly, so tenderly, that everything else faded. He understood then that love, real, profound love, can give life purpose even in the worst circumstances. As he put it, love goes very far, up to the furthest reach of a human being. Even when all freedom is taken, we still have the freedom to love. The existential vacuum. After liberation, Frankl walked back into a broken world. Cities had been bombed, families torn apart, and millions murdered. But now another challenge appeared: freedom without direction. Many survivors, like others in post-war society, felt empty inside. Free from camps and cruelty, they no longer knew what to live for. This emptiness, Frankl observed, was not just post-war trauma, but something deeper, what he called the existential vacuum. In modern life, many people feel a lack of meaning, even amid comfort and success. They chase pleasure, wealth, or distraction to fill the void, but those never satisfy the soul. Frankl believed that life has meaning under all circumstances, and that meaning must be discovered, not invented. 3 paths to meaning. Frankl's experiences in the camp became the foundation of a new psychological approach: logotherapy, therapy through meaning. According to Frankl, there are 3 main ways people find meaning: through work or creation, building, writing, painting, helping, or achieving something of value; through love and relationships, by loving another person or experiencing someone deeply; through suffering. When suffering is unavoidable, meaning can be found by how we face it with courage and dignity. Even if all else is taken from us, we are free to choose our attitude. A final reflection. Years later, as a respected psychiatrist and author, Viktor Frankl would often tell the story of a fellow prisoner who dreamed he would be freed by a certain date. When that date came and went, and liberation did not arrive, the man lost hope and died shortly after. Frankl used this story to illustrate a painful truth: those who lose their reason to live are the most vulnerable to despair. But for those who hold on to meaning even in suffering, there is strength. He often quoted Nietzsche, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Epilogue. Hope in the human spirit. Frankl never claimed that suffering is necessary to find meaning, but when it is unavoidable, we must grow through it rather than shrink from it. His book is not just a Holocaust memoir, but a message for anyone who has ever felt lost, hopeless, or broken. It is a reminder that life is asking us questions, not the other way around. We do not get to choose our circumstances, but we always choose our response. Even in the face of suffering, we can live with dignity, purpose, and love. Man's Search for Meaning is not only a story of unimaginable cruelty, it is a guidebook for resilience, a psychological manual, and a spiritual compass pointing toward a truth Frankl proved with his own life. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.